Everyone, today we have the headline reads, criminal cases fading away, but some legal perils still loom in 2025. What a difference a year makes. At this time last year, former President Donald Trump was facing the prospect of 4 criminal trials that could put him behind bars for years and hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties from civil cases that had been brought against him. Now the criminal cases against him are in jeopardy. The 2 federal prosecutions have already been dismissed, while the 2 state cases are stalled, and appeals courts might whittle down the hefty civil judgments against him. The chance in circumstances, is largely due to Trump's election win. The federal cases were dropped because of a Justice Department opinion that sitting presidents can't be prosecuted, a position in which Trump's lawyers have said should be applied to the state cases as well. Trump's attorneys in his civil cases, meanwhile, are trying to use his soon-to-be office to their benefit as well. His spokesperson, Stephen Chong, said in a statement that Trump's election was a mandate from the American people who demanded an immediate end to the political weaponization of our justice system and a swift dismissal of all the witch hunts against him. We look forward to uniting our country as President Trump makes America great again. Here's a look at where the various court cases against the president-elect stand and how they may or may not be affected by his inauguration on January 20th. Case to which he was convicted. Trump was convicted in May. For those of you that don't know or haven't been of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment to his then lawyer Michael Cohen, who paid porn star which is an allegation that Donald Trump, who pleaded not guilty to the charges in May, was, or sorry, in April, was initially set to be sentenced in July, a date that got pushed back after a U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision that created a new standard for presidential immunity. His attorneys argued that the High Court's ruling meant that the indictment and the conviction should be tossed out since they relied on, in part, on evidence related to Trump's time in office. Judge Merchan rejected that argument in a December 16th ruling, but he has yet to rule on Trump's separate, more sweeping motion to dismiss the case or to set a new date for Trump's sentencing. The judge seemed to indicate in another decision that same day, knocking down Trump's argument that he is already protected by presidential immunity as president-elect, that it might not be possible to sentence him after he takes office. Merchan noted that Justice Department memo and the Supreme Court of the United States ruling both speak the need for a sitting president to be free to fully discharge the powers and responsibilities and duties of his office without criminal process interfering with his ability to carry out his constitutional functions. The Manhattan is done, a position Trump's attorneys say should be denied because he had the prospect of a criminal sentencing hanging over his head for the duration of his time in office. Fulton County, Georgia, District Attorney indicted Trump and 18 others, co-defendants in Trump's 2023, or in August 2023, on charges of conspiring to illegally overturn his 2020 election loss to Democratic and current outgoing President Joe Biden in the state, to which Trump pleaded not guilty. Donald Trump, no date was ever set in the case for sentencing, for the trial, which was stalled for several months over allegations of conflict of interest involving Willis, Trump and some of his co-defendants argued that she should be disqualified because of those allegations, which centered on a clearly private romantic relationship she had with the special prosecutor she had appointed to oversee the case. A Georgia appeals court sided with Trump in a December 19th ruling ordering Willis and her office to be disqualified from the case. Willis's office is appealing the ruling, a process that can take several months. Even if her appeal is successful, she would have to wait until Trump was out of office to try him, since the trial has been estimated to take months. If the Georgia Supreme Court decides not to hear the appeal, or if her appeal is unsuccessful, the case would be referred to the Executive Director of Prosecuting Attorneys, Office of Legal Counsel in Georgia, which would have to find another prosecutor for the strongly labor-intensive case. The council's executive director, Pete Skandalowski, told NBC News that last year, if someone new took over the case, the person would be able to use the investigative work that has been completed by the DA's office, but would also have the ability to do additional investigative work and to use or disclose the some or all of Willis's convictions. Cases against Donald Trump. The biggest potential financial blow looming over President-elect Donald Trump comes from the $350 million judgment in a New York judge hit him and his company with in February after finding they had engaged in years of fraudulent conduct. Trump has denied the allegations in the lawsuit from State Attorney General Letitia James' office and appealed the judgment, which has since swelled to more than $500 million with interest. Trump is on the hook for almost $489 million. Of that amount. During arguments before the State Appellate Division, which is a mid-level appeals court in September, 3 members of the 5-judge panel indicated that they thought the financial penalty was too large, but the penalty has yet to rule. After the November election, Trump's attorney John Sawyer asked James's office to voluntarily dismiss the case in order to promote unity while Trump's impending duties as president if it continues to proceed. James's office declined the invitation. The article reads writer E.G. Carroll has scored two civil fraud verdicts against Trump in New York federal court in the last 2 years. In 2023, a New York jury awarded E.G. Carroll with $5 million after Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming her, and a separate $83 million awarded from the jury last year for defaming her while he was in office, while he was president, was because all of this is purely denied the allegations and appealed both verdicts to the Second Court of Appeals. The appeals court rejected his appeal of the $5 million verdict this week, a decision Trump spokesperson said will continue to be appealed. Arguments on the $83 million jury verdict are still pending, with Carroll's attorneys set to push back later this month on Trump's claim that the Supreme Court July immunity ruling means that he shouldn't have been found liable for his comments in office. While the criminal federal election interference case against Trump over the January 6th U.S. Capitol 2021 attack has been dismissed, he is still facing age-related civil suits that are from law enforcement personnel who were injured in the attack and some Democratic members of Congress. Trump has argued that his actions were protected by presidential immunity, an issue on which both sides are expected to submit filings in the coming months. The federal judge presiding over the case, U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta from the District Court of Appeals, or from the District of Columbia Circuit, has said he plans to rule on the issue by the summer of 2025, according to a court filing. Okay, folks, now we are heading on to the legal status of the Central Park. Trump is facing one more pending civil suit where his ascendancy to the presidency is not expected to have a direct impact, which is a defamation suit brought against him in October by members of the so-called Central Park Five. The Five, Anton McRae, Kevin Richardson, and Yosef Salama, Raymond Santana, and Corey Willis are suing Trump over his remarks about them during his presidential debate with Democratic vice presidential candidate for president Kamala Harris. Trump erroneously said the five pleaded guilty when they were tried in connection with the assault and rape of a woman who had been running in Central Park on April 19th, 1989. And he was incorrectly stated that the victims had died. They pleaded guilty. And I said, well, they pled guilty. They badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately, and if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty, Trump said at a debate. The quintet, who were ages 14 to 16 at the time of the attack, now call themselves the Exonerated Five, have said they were coerced into making false confessions by police. They all pleaded not guilty and were convicted at trial. They were exonerated in 2002 after DNA evidence linked another man, a serial rapist, to the attack, and he admitted to being the lone attacker. Trump has moved to dismiss the suit, arguing that his remarks were substantially true because the five at one point had admitted guilt, and the victim, who'd been beaten into a coma, had at one point been described as virtually dead. Trump has contended the remarks were protected political speech. Further rhetoric hyperbole is expected in political debate, and audiences are primed to be skeptical of what they hear his lawyers argued in a filing. The five men maintained that they were defamed and suffered severe emotional distress and reputational harm, and have asked the judge to deny Trump's motion to dismiss